I shouldn't have stopped. I knew it the second I did, but it was too late. It had been a brutal shift. 14 hours in the ER, one code blue after another, barely a moment to breathe. The rain had started just as I pulled out of the hospital parking lot, a steady, relentless downpour that made the road slick and the air feel heavier. The wipers groaned as they struggled to keep up, the rhythmic squeaking adding to my exhaustion. My eyes burned, my head throbbed, and my hands were still sticky from the last trauma case I worked on. I just wanted to get home, crawl into bed, and disappear for a few hours. But the road stretched on, empty and silent, save for the hum of my tires against the asphalt. Then, I saw him. He was standing at the edge of the shoulder, his thumb raised like something out of an old horror movie. I should have kept driving. I should have pressed the gas. But exhaustion makes you stupid, and stupid is exactly what I was. I don't know why I stopped. Maybe it was guilt. How many times had I seen men like him come through the hospital? Cold, hungry, barely alive. Maybe I just wanted some company on that godforsaken road. But the moment he slid into the seat beside me, I felt it. A shift in the air. A wrongness that settled deep in my gut. He didn't say much, just nodded when I asked where he was going. His voice was quiet, almost too quiet. The silence between us stretched, thick and suffocating, wrapping itself around my chest like a vice. I tried to focus on the road, but it was impossible to ignore the weight of his gaze. I could feel it, like icy fingers trailing down my spine. My grip tightened on the wheel. My pulse thrummed in my ears, drowning out the sound of the tires against the asphalt. He was too still, too composed. I stole a glance at him, just for a second. He sat rigid, his hands resting in his lap, but his shoulders were tense like a coiled spring waiting to snap. Something wasn't right. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to turn around, to kick him out of the car, to do something, anything. But I didn't. I kept driving, pretending not to notice how the air had shifted, how the darkness outside the car suddenly felt closer, heavier. I swallowed hard. I wanted to ask him something, anything to break the silence, but my mouth had gone dry. And then, just for a second, he moved. Not much, just a small shift, but enough for me to catch the faintest glint of metal beneath his jacket. A shadow, a shape, a weapon. I knew then. I was trapped. The hitchhiker was calm and almost amused as he turned to me and said,
"You seem nervous."
I swallowed hard, forcing a chuckle. I replied, "Long shift, just tired, that's all." He smirked slightly and then said,
"Yeah? You don't look just tired. You look uneasy. Like you're trying real hard not to stare at something."
I tightened my grip on the wheel and replied, "No, just not much of a talker, that's all. Where exactly did you say you were headed again?" His smirk widened.
You know, it's funny. Most people don't stop for guys like me anymore. Too afraid. Too smart. So why did you?
I forced a tight smile, my voice strained, and before I even realized it, the words slipped out of my mouth. "I guess I'm just not that smart." He grinned slightly, his expression unreadable.
Yeah? Or maybe you're just too nice for your own good. Has that ever gotten you into trouble?
His grin lingered, and before I could fully process his words, I heard a metallic click. Before I could react, he pulled something from under his jacket. A shotgun. He turned it toward me, his eyes dark and unblinking, as if weighing his next move. My heart pounded, my mind raced. I knew if I stepped out, I was dead, so I did the only thing I could. I fought back. I grabbed the gun. The car swerved violently as I lunged, my fingers wrapping around the cold metal of the shotgun's barrel. He snarled, yanking it back, but I held on, using all my strength to push it away from me. The smell of sweat and gun oil filled the small space, my heart pounding so loudly it drowned out everything else. His elbow slammed into my ribs, forcing a gasp from my lungs, but I didn't let go. I couldn't. The struggle intensified. our limbs thrashing as the gun swung dangerously between us. My grip slipped and he tried to shove me back, but I threw my weight forward, slamming the butt of the gun against the dashboard. The radio cracked, static hissing through the speakers. His grip loosened for a fraction of a second, just enough for me to twist the barrel away from my chest. And then I gasped, the world spinning around me. My arm was on fire. The steering wheel jerked under my grip. But then I saw it. His face. The flicker of fear in his eyes. He wasn't expecting me to fight back. The gunshot tore through my hand. Pain erupted, white-hot and blinding, spreading through my arm like wildfire. I gasped, barely keeping control of the wheel as blood oozed between my fingers. He glanced at the door. He was thinking of running. I knew I had one chance. With a sudden jerk, I slammed the brakes. The tires screeched against the wet pavement, the force hurling the hitchhiker forward. His grip on the gun loosened just enough, his body colliding with the dashboard with a sickening thud. Adrenaline overrode the pain. I lunged. My hand clamped down on the barrel, twisting it away as the car skidded to a stop. He struggled, but I had leverage. I shoved hard. He stumbled, his body slamming against the door with a forceful thud. The impact jarred it open, and before he could catch himself, the momentum sent him tumbling out onto the pavement. He hit the ground hard, rolling once before coming to a stop in the rain-slicked road. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Him sprawled on the ground, me bleeding, barely able to keep my head straight. Then the distant roar of an engine, headlights cutting through the rain, a truck barreling toward us. He scrambled to his feet, his eyes wide with panic. He turned around, glancing back at me just once before bolting into the darkness beyond the road. The truck's horn blared, its tires screeching against the slick pavement, the massive vehicle coming to an abrupt halt just feet away from where he had been. I stumbled out of the car, waving my good arm wildly. The truck skidded to a stop just feet away. A man jumped out, eyes wide, taking in the scene. The blood, the shotgun, the open car door. The truck driver jumped out, his boots splashing into a puddle. He ran toward me, his face twisted with concern. "Jesus Christ, you okay?" he asked, his voice barely cutting through the pounding rain. I collapsed to my knees, my vision swimming. "Call the cops," I managed to choke out. He tried to kill me." The truck driver grabbed his phone, dialing with shaky fingers. My breath came in ragged gasps, my pulse hammering like a war drum in my chest. I could barely keep myself upright, the world tilting as adrenaline began to wear off. In the distance, through the sheets of rain, the hitchhiker was gone, swallowed by the storm, disappearing like a phantom into the darkness. The sirens came minutes later, blurred faces, urgent voices, hands pressing against my wound. The world spun around me, but I was alive. I had made it. What would you like to hear next? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more chilling tales.